After many years, I've finally done it and gone full electric. Now, I'm not going to provide a review of the MG ZS EV. There are lots and lots of excellent videos on YouTube that already do that. Rather, what I want to do is explain why I decided to buy the ZS EV. Now, I've been looking for electric cars for quite some time. The difficulty is they are expensive and it's quite difficult to justify buying them. As with many electric vehicle owners, I'd love to have a Tesla, but to be honest, it's a little bit out of my price bracket. So I was looking at something quite a bit cheaper. And basically with the ZS EV, it came down to two things: size and money. The ZS EV certainly is a big car. You can tell that just standing alongside it. Placed alongside cars such as the E2008, it's certainly taller and longer as well. Whether that translates into more internal space, however, I don't yet know. Now, I've got two teenage boys. They're both quite big. I'm just over 6 foot, about 6'1", and it's not going to be long before my boys are also 6'1", and so I need a vehicle that they are comfortable in as well as me. So there's got to be space in the back, and in the ZS EV there is. Furthermore, they have a huge amount of luggage that I need to cart around for them, and being able to fit all of their stuff in the back of this vehicle is very important to me. So in terms of space, there's absolutely loads of room in the front. I find this very comfy. A few reviewers have complained about the fact that the steering wheel won't adjust for reach, but being honest, I've never really found that a problem. Now, I'm 6'1". If we get into the back of the car, I have absolutely no difficulty sitting behind myself. Plenty of room here, plenty of knee space. It's nice and comfortable. The only slight problem I found is to do with this headrest here. The headrest doesn't quite adjust high enough, it just digs in. I looked at quite a few other EVs. The Zoe I think is fantastic, but it's a little bit on the small size, and I just wasn't convinced that it was actually going to be adequate for those occasions where there was me, two other people, plus our luggage. The same really went for the 208 and the E-Corsa and so on. The idea of an SUV really suited me fine, but by the time you start looking at things such as the Kona and the E-Niro, not only do you have a long waiting time, but also the price is starting to head towards Tesla territory. Finally, I think the thing that really did it for me in terms of the ZS EV was just the price. When I started looking, MG had just released a phenomenal offer, something which they called their swappage scheme, which, including the government grant, meant I got over £7,000 off the vehicle. In order to qualify, you had to have a car that was over 7 years old, and I did. I had a car which was 17 years old, and so it was a no-brainer. The car itself, I'd have been lucky to get a couple of £100 if I'd sold it. It was basically worth scrap value, even though it was in quite good condition. And so the deal was absolutely fantastic. It brought the price of this vehicle, the exclusive model, down to just below £24,000. The MG ZS EV is quite a quirky car. It's got a number of strange things about it, and there are a number of features that you'd normally expect on a car at this kind of cost, which it doesn't have. For example, instead of climate control, it's just got air conditioning. However, if I'm fair, for every feature that it's missing, there are other features which the car has that are missing from other similar priced vehicles that you normally have to pay a lot more for. Quite a few reviewers have been a little bit critical of the quality of the car and also of the way it drives. In terms of quality, I'm going to be frank, when I sit here driving, I'm not going to be scratching hard plastics. I just want a car that is well built and which is going to last quite a while. And when I went to look around the ZS EV, you know, I was really pleased with the build quality. It feels and looks like a car that is going to last. In terms of drive, yeah, it's got great acceleration. I put my foot down and this thing shifts, but arguably, if you push it hard in corners, you're going to come a bit of a cropper. This is, after all, an SUV. It isn't a sports vehicle, and it doesn't market itself as a sports vehicle. In corners, yeah, it can be a little bit precarious at times if you're really pushing it. There are better SUVs out there in terms of handling, but to be frank, you have to pay for those. Ultimately, my view is if you want a sports car, buy yourself a sports car. In terms of everyday use though, the handling of this vehicle is absolutely fine. Yes, push it in the corners and you might come a bit of a cropper, but if you take things sensibly, you will not be disappointed. The big downside to do with the MG is its range. The advertised range, the real world figure that they give is 163 miles, I think. Now that isn't great, and to be honest, most EVs coming onto the market now have ranges of 200 miles plus. And this was a big factor that I was having to weigh up in my mind when I was purchasing the vehicle. But if I'm entirely honest to myself, nearly all of my driving, over 99% of my driving, is short range. I only have less than 10 miles to go to work and 10 miles home again, less than 20 miles a day, and furthermore my workplace does have a charging point. I only do trips of greater than 100 miles only a handful of times a year, maybe about once or twice a year. I do a 200-mile journey, and it's going to be interesting to see how well that goes, but I wasn't going to let that completely dominate my purchase decision when it came down to getting a car. You can probably tell that I'm very happy with the car. Sure, it's not perfect, but it actually drives surprisingly well, much better than I thought, and the price really helps. I guess the big question is, would I have bought it if it wasn't for the hefty discounts? I guess I probably wouldn't have snapped it up quite as quickly as I did, but it would certainly be in the running, because the difference in price between this car and all of its competitors really is huge, and even with the discount it's still good value. So there you go, that's my opinion, but what's yours? Perhaps you've got an MG ZS EV already, or perhaps you're considering buying one, or maybe you considered and actually rejected it. Let me know what your thoughts are by adding comments down below the video.